everybody, so today I'm recording just a general Pilates class, mat work, but a few things that you do need. If you've got a mat at home, brilliant. If not, do it on some carpet with a towel or something just to give you a bit of softness, not a hard floor. I've got a couple blocks and a ball, but if you've got either a pillow, just something to keep your neck, shoulder width off the floor, and a ball, you can use a book or a cushion, just something we can put our knee on like we normally do so our pelvis isn't going to collapse down. Otherwise, make sure you've got water, chuck some music on and get ready to go. So we're going to start down at our feet as we do. Feet are going to be hip width apart. If you're not sure where that is, if you bring them together, you take your toes out to a wide V and then you straighten your heels up. This normally brings you pretty much hip width apart. We want our ankles to be underneath our hips. Make sure your weight is nice and even on your feet, your toes are nice and spread, they're not all crunched up together. Knees are soft, so we just pull ourselves out of that locked position. Pull the body up tall, like the crown of the head. We don't want to flare this chest forward, we want to keep it in its neutral. We're going to start with some pelvic tilts, so we're tucking our tailbone under and then sticking our pelvis back. Ribs should stay fairly still, we don't need to be moving the whole spine. I will show you sideways just so you can get a better idea. You tuck your tailbone under and then stick your tail back, a bit like a duck. So back, forward. This is posterior tilt, this is anterior tilt. I always say if this is point A, tucked right under, and this is point C, pushed right back, and about point B, about halfway in between. Once you've found that, we're going to take a few nice deep breaths, lateral breathing, so we're breathing into our ribs. You'll see my shoulders aren't creeping up, they're staying down, just breathing in and out my ribs. Really feeling those ribs expand. If you want, you can take your hands around your ribs, thumb behind, fingers in front, and just feel your ribs going out and in as you're breathing into those lungs. If you feel that creates a bit of tension, then you can just keep these arms down. While we're talking about our arms and we're doing our nice deep breathing, you want your thumbs to be facing forward or gently palms facing forward. If the back of your hands are facing forward, it rolls the shoulders round. You want them to be open. And I don't just mean turning your wrists because that's cheating. You want that whole shoulder to be facing forward. Okay, we're going to do our transverse abdominals now. Transverse abdominals are our deeper abdominal muscles. They wrap transversely, sideways across our stomach. They're not our six-pack glory abs, but they are one of the key muscles to give us that nice flat stomach, rather than working our muscles in an extended, bloated-looking way. So you're going to take a nice breath in. As you exhale, I want you to harden that stomach. Like someone's coming around and going to push you over or punch you in the stomach, you're bracing yourself for that impact. You should feel that stomach tighten. You're going to inhale and exhale, keeping these stomach muscles tight. It may get to the point that if you are quite strong, you can feel them tighten up so much that you can feel that the breath is getting a bit hard. That's fine, that just means you've got really good engagement on those transverse abdominals. And relax off. When you relax off, you should feel that stomach go whoa, like you've just eaten a big dinner. So we'll do that again. Take a nice breath in. Exhale, engage. Inhale, exhale, keeping them nice and hard. As you're keeping your transverse abdominals hard, try and make sure everything else is fairly relaxed. You don't want to start tensing up in your shoulders and your knees. Everything else should be nice and soft. Just your tummy muscles hard. And relax off. One more time. Nice deep breath in. Exhale, engage. Keep the breath flowing. Keeping the TAs hard. TAs, transverse abdominals, same thing. If ever I say engage your TAs, this is what I mean. No matter where you are in your positions or on your mat, if I say engage your TAs, I want you to harden these stomach muscles so that pressure isn't pushing out your stomach. We're working those muscles in that core in a nice flat position. And relax off. Like any muscle, we don't want them to be engaged the whole time, otherwise they will exhaust quickly and they won't work efficiently. Keep the body tall. We'll bring our heads back a little bit, just so they're not pulling forward. I'm going to look side to side. The rest of your body should be still. You shouldn't be twisting the whole body. We want to be moving that neck. Nice and smooth with control. centre. We're going to take our ear to shoulder. Keep these shoulders hanging, make sure they're not creeping up to your ears, that's cheating. And up and over. It's not a giant movement, this movement, so don't expect your ear to actually be able to touch shoulder. If you can, then you're hypermobile. If you can't, don't worry. You may feel particularly tight on one side. It's quite normal, especially if you've got a desk-based job. What you can do is you can just let the weight of your head hang, take a few breaths there. We don't need to be yanking on our heads or anything. Our heads are so heavy that the weight of them themselves will do a lot of the work. And centre. Bring our chin tight to our chest. Why I say tight, so I don't want you curving forward and bring it down. We're keeping it back and just bringing it in tight. Take a few deep breaths into the back of the ribs there. Again, use the lungs to stretch out the ribs. And then look up to the ceiling. A few deep breaths in and out there. And centre. We're going to roll our shoulders backwards, always backwards. We live in the forward flexor chain, so normally everything we do is forward rounding, so we're going backwards today and always. Really getting a nice full range of movement. We're slowly going to get bigger and bigger. We're going to get these elbows involved until we're spinning the whole arm around. Get any clicks and clunks out now. You may feel particularly clicky and clunky with this. If it's not painful, I wouldn't overly worry. If it is painful, then you probably should go see if you can get a physio to have a look at it, see what's going on. So nice big range of movement. Making sure the rest of the body is still. Don't need to be flaring these ribs around, but just asking these shoulders to move. And bring them down. We're going to take these arms out. Thumbs facing up, palms facing forward. Making sure that hands roughly around your shoulder because they will want to creep forward. So we're going to keep them out here. From here, we're going to lean side to side. A bit like an aeroplane. Making sure you pull yourself tall before going up and over to the opposite side. And just keep going that. You may feel you get a bit more movement each time you do it. These are our lateral leans. We're leaning laterally, side to side. It's a lovely movement, especially to do it in a controlled manner. Try and keep the breath flowing. Let that head hang as you go. You may as well get that extra neck stretch while we're here. And back up. We're going to bring these arms up. We want our elbows roughly at shoulder height here. We're going to do our pec deck. So we're going to close. Don't worry if you can't tap the elbows and the hands close. There's various reasons why you might not be able to do that, but it's not the end of the world. What we really want to focus on is bringing them back as we open up. You may feel your hands come down like this. Try and see if you can get that movement where the hands are still over the shoulders. Elbows at shoulder height. I'm just going to close and open. If you want to add weights into this, you can grab some weights or a couple bottles of water. Just squeezing these shoulder blades together as you pull them back, but try not let the shoulders creep up. You want to keep them down. Keep going until you start to feel a bit of warmth around the shoulders, maybe up your levator, into your neck there. Really focus on the squeezing, the opening together of those shoulder blades. We're going to start holding for a couple seconds each time we're open. Open, squeeze and hold. And again, open, squeeze and hold. And relaxed. Bring these arms down. We're going to do a gentle twist now. We're going to bring our hands into prayer pose. So bring the hands together. Pull them down so you feel a slight stretch in your wrist. Shoulders going to stay down. We're we're going to keep our hips forward. So our hips are going to want to twist around, but we're going to ask them to stay facing forward. As we look over to the shoulder and bring our arms round. Inhale, centre. Exhale the other way. You may find one side's a lot tighter than the other, or they may be fairly similar. Normally I ask you to keep your hands fairly centre, but for today I will let you try pull them round if that helps get you a bit of extra movement. Make sure you are looking round with your head. If your head and your neck is not looking round, then your thoracic spine, that central spine, won't be able to twist as far. Keep the breath flowing. Exhale as you're turning, inhaling to centre, keeping those shoulders down, keeping those hips forward and knees soft. I know it's a lot to think about. And centre. So we've worked our spine in most directions. We're going to do a little bit of balance now. So you're going to plant one foot. When I say plant, I want that foot to be nice, wide, even spread on the floor, making sure the weight is evenly distributed so it's not falling out or falling in. The knee is soft, so don't let this knee lock in. I'm going to put our balance on our foot. We're going to point our foot as we tap it in forward, just in front of your mat or in front and forward of you. And then you're going to draw the knee up high as you flex your foot. So your heel goes down, your toes come up. Point down, flex up. Point down, flex up. Keep going with that, lifting this knee as high as you can. Try and keep it on a nice straight trajectory. So think about that toe going down and coming out rather than kind of going here and there and everywhere. If you're struggling for balance, you can stand on a hard floor, or if you need to hold on to something, whether it's a wall, a table, or whatever you've got, try and make sure when you're holding on to something, you're still upright. You're not kind of leaning to hold onto the wall like this and doing it here, or your chair that's over there. You want to be upright, so holding whatever you need fairly close in. If you need your arms wide for balance, that's fine as well. So you should start to feel these hip flexors working, the muscles that flex the hip. Pointing, flexing that foot. Make sure the body is upright, that chest is open, thumbs are forward. Quite often you'll find you're collapsing back in by this point. And I'm going to swap over. So plant the other foot. Same again, keep that body tall, point to the foot, flex the foot as you draw it up and in. Trying to keep that body fairly level. So the supporting legs doing a lot of the hard work, but then the hip flexors on this side are what lifting and lowering the weight of that leg. Going with that. I want to do about even amount on both sides. I normally count about 20 in my head. Everyone's got their different speeds though. About 2 more. And we're going to bring our feet hip width apart again. Okay, we're going to do 2 moves individually and then we're going to put them together. So the first move is going to do tiptoes. We're coming up onto tiptoes. Nice and strong, coming back down. You may need to do a few to practice. And then we're going to start adding these arms in. So as we come up, our arms come up. As we go down, the arms go down. Just add a bit of a swing to it so that these arms are building a bit of momentum. You may find that you swing too much and that pulls you forward. That's fine, you're learning, you're getting that coordination and seeing how far you can go or how much of a swing you can do. I always say these little mistakes are actually quite good because it teaches your body its limits. It will know for next time if you swing too much that yes, I am going to fall, I'm going to need to get prepared to fall, or what you can do to use those muscles. And then our second move is our squat. So when you're coming down to a squat, a couple of things to focus on. One is that the knees are going straight ahead and they're not collapsing in or they're not going out too wide. And 2 is that the knees don't come quite over the toes. You want to aim past the toes. It's more of a sit back into your squat and come back up. You may only be able to get down to here and back up, that is fine, or you may feel you can actually go quite far down before coming back up. Do what you can. I'm just going to carry on with those. Have a little look, if you don't have a mirror in front of you, that your ankles aren't collapsing in. If they are, then ask the weight to go slightly more to the outer side of your foot and make sure those knees aren't falling in. Okay, we're going to put those two together now. So we're going to swing down into a squat, come up onto tiptoes. Swing down into a squat, come up onto tiptoes. It may take you a couple of times to learn your balance. And even when you've got your balance, you may find a couple of times that you overdo it. You overswing and then you end up falling forward. That's fine, you're still learning. So this should be getting your heart rate up. Going down and up. Using that core, using that balance. Keep that control. If at any point it's making you feel dizzy, then please stop. It should be up in your heart rate, but not so much it makes you feel giddy. And hold and bring these arms down. Okay, hopefully you've got your heart beating a little bit quicker. We're going to come to the front of our mats. So I like to sit with my feet right on the edge. If you need to, if you know you've got a bit of a tender coccyx or tailbone, I use a mini mat, but you can just use an extra little thin pillow or an extra towel or something to put underneath. Just because we are going to be rolling on our coccyx. If you've got a mini mat, that's even better. So sitting up tall, we're going to do our curl downs. So curling down, I'm literally curling in my spine. I'm going to show you the full variation and also the smaller ones. My feet and knees are hip width apart, my arms are forward, but at no point am I letting my arms yank forward or my head yank forward. I'm trying to keep them in. I'm curling from my pelvis. You see my tailbones tucking under, the rest of my spine is following. I'm using that control. I am keeping my breath flowing, I promise. And coming down, take a nice deep breath in. And then as I come up, I want to lift with my chest rather than yanking with my head or yanking with my arms. So I'm curling up, keeping that breath flowing and pulling my body up. I will show you again a full curl down in a minute. If you know you plop down at the last minute or have to chuck yourself back up, you might not be ready for a full curl down, that's fine. You're just going to go to where you can control. Tuck that tailbone. You may just be here before coming back up, that's fine. You may find you can curl all the way down, just so the shoulder blades aren't touching the floor, and then come back up. Whatever you can control, do that. Then you can start pushing yourself a bit more each time. But if you do find that you're kind of plopping at this bit, and you're going like this, trying to get back up, or you chuck yourself back up, I would just stick with a slightly easier curl down. One thing you can do if you're by a sofa or something is hook your feet underneath the sofa so you've got that support and see if you can do it with the aid of that. If not, you can get your partner or a child or somebody to hold your feet to give you that leverage, but make sure that you're coming up from using these stomach and back muscles, not your head yanking forward or those arms yanking forward. Keep going back. If you are newly postnatal, so you've recently had a baby, or you know you have a very weak core and you might have a slight split in your stomach muscles, I want you to make sure you engage your transverse abdominals while you do this. If at all when you're coming up, it's quite hard when you're coming up to have a look, but if you see me coning or doming, then that's when you really want to make sure those abdominals are engaged so that pressure isn't pushing out. You're not causing any herniation. And you're going to do a few of those. You're probably doing a few by now, whether it's half curl downs or whether it's full curl downs. Once you've done a few, we're going to sit up nice and tall. Our feet and knees are staying hip width apart. Our body is upright. If you really struggle sitting upright and you're looking a bit more like this, you can grab a block or something to put underneath your bum, a book, just to help lift this bum up a little bit higher and it will take the pressure off your lower back. We're going to work our abdominals again now. Two options. Option one is you can sit up tall and stay in the upright position, one hand on top of the other, I kind of just link my thumb and my little finger together so that they're level rather than one being a lot higher than the other. We're going to row. So we're twisting like we're digging our elbow into the floor, and then the other side. If you look with your head, you will get a bigger twist. Okay, so this is level one, just twisting and rowing. You'll start to feel a little bit of abdominals, a little bit of obliques working. If you would like to make it harder, you're going to take a breath, we're going to lean back. This time we are keeping flat rather than curling down. We want to keep this chest lifted. And we're going to row again. Twist and row. Keep going with this, keeping that breath flowing. If looking side to side is making you a bit giddy, then you can just look forward, just really make sure that body's twisting as you go side to side. But ideally, we want to be looking side to side as we go. Again, if you're newly postnatal, you want to keep that core engaged, those transverse abdominals engaged. Keep your breath flowing. Keep your row rowing. Elbows digging down to the mat and round. Like you're rowing down some rapids. Keeping that chest lifted. Don't let the head pull forward, you don't want to be here. You want to be nice and straight. Thinking about that posture. Don't want to encourage forward hip posture. Should be starting to feel it by now. When you're ready, you can just pull forward, pull over these legs. I quite like to flex my feet, so heels down, toes up, and then use my toes to pull me, stretch me forward. And I'm trying to keep my back fairly straight. I'm not curving too far, I'm thinking of keeping that back straight as I pull. You may feel if you're flexible enough to pull your feet out and do it further, or if you're tight, then have your feet here and just start small and get more and more as you go. Take a few breaths, let that blood start flowing around normally again. And then we're going to come down onto our backs. So you can do a curl down if you want, like we did earlier, all the way down onto your back. Using that control, keeping that breath flowing all the way down. We're going to bring our arms down by our side. I want to do a few pelvic tilts. So pelvic tilts is where we push our lower back into the mat and then arch it off, but our pelvis stays on the floor the whole time. So that pelvis is rocking forwards and backwards. Pelvis is on the mat, lower back presses in, then the body arches. This is just going to lengthen our spine, help realign just in case we come down a bit more to one side or the other. We want to be nice and straight. Then we're going to imprint our spine. Imprinting the spine is where you push the lower back in. That just keeps our back a little bit more safe and also works our transverse abdominals more, our tummy and our core more. But you can be in neutral. If you feel pretty strong, you can be in neutral. I just don't want you doing the next move and then ending up pulling like this and the back will take over here. Whereas if it's pressed in, it's less likely to take over. Arms down by your side, palms or thumbs facing up. You don't really want to be palms down because again, it encourages that forward shoulders. We're going to lift one leg into tabletop. I'm going to give you a couple different levels for this. Tabletop is just 90 degrees. It lifts up the legs a table. So from here, level one is just taking the legs straight down and straight back up. Seems easy enough, and it may be for you, you may find this really easy, or maybe like, oh yeah, I can start to feel this core working. A few things to look out for. One is that you're not secretly using the other leg to help push you up as you're coming down. This leg shouldn't have any weight in it at all, it's just down on the floor for a bit of extra support. Level two is lifting both legs to the tabletop, keeping this lower back down, and we'll do the same, but we're going to do toe taps. So the legs just coming down, my knees are staying at 90 degrees, and I'm just tapping my toes. One leg comes down, back to tabletop, and then the other goes down and back to tabletop. Level three, if you'd like to make it harder again, is doing the same, but with the full legs stretched down and back up. Full legs stretched down and back up. Whichever level you choose, keep that lower back in or in your neutral. You don't want it to be creeping up.
and you're keeping these transverse abdominals engaged. What I mean by that is you don't want that pressure pushing out your belly. If you were to not think about those abdominals and you have a weak core, you will find as you're doing this, you'll feel loads of pressure pushing out here, and that will give you a strengthened muscles but in that extended position where you want them to be nice and flat. I would say picture someone's about to drop a bowling ball on you and you're hardening that stomach. That is what you want the whole time. As you come back to tabletop, you can relax off and then brace again. Keep the breath flowing. Exhale as the leg comes down, inhale as the leg is over. I will show you the 3 levels. Level 3 is this, legs are straight down and up. Level 2 is toe taps. So you're tapping those toes, but your legs aren't bending more than the 90 degrees they're already at. And level 1 is keeping one leg down and going down and up. If you choose level 1, you want to do about 20 taps on one side and then alternate and do about 20 on the other side. So you're probably about ready to switch if you have been doing one leg. So we're just going to keep going with that for a little while. When you get to your level and you think, right, I've done even amount on both sides, I'm about done now, I can feel my hip flexors, my abs, my quads working enough, then you can just hug your knees in, just stay here. Try all different levels, but if you know that having both legs up is too much for you and that pressure is just pushing out your belly, then stick with level 1. You shouldn't feel like your chest and your head and shoulders is engaging too much, they should be nice and relaxed. If you have any clunking, thinking about this, if you have any clunking as your hips go down, it's normally just due to tight muscles and ligaments. So if it's not painful and it just sounds a bit funny, then don't overly worry. A few things you can do to combat this is you can inwardly rotate the leg as they go down. You may feel this clanks left. Or outwardly, externally rotate. For some people this makes it worse, but some people it makes it better depending on where the tight muscles are. Or you can bring the leg in as you come, so you don't go quite straight down, you bring it inwards a little bit more, and this can also help with that clunking. Okay, we're going to hug our knees in now. If you have no osteoporosis or osteoarthritis, you're going to gently rock side to side. If you do have any osteoporosis, then just stay still. You don't want to create small fractures in your spine. Now I'm going to bring these legs down. Okay, I'm going to press the back of my ribs, the back of my shoulder blades, and the back of my head down. I don't mind if my lower back is arching a little bit for this one, as long as it's not right up, but keeping those ribs down. I'm going to take both arms up, facing the ceiling. My palms are facing in towards each other. My fingertips are facing up, and they're roughly shoulder width apart. From here, I'm going to take both arms up above my head. See if I can tap them down to the floor without my ribs flaring up. So I can tap mine down, but you may feel your ribs have suddenly gone like this. You need to ask them to stay down. From here, we're just going to take them both up to the ceiling, and then both back down to the floor. It may take you a couple times until you can get them touching without those ribs flaring up. So warm them up a bit first to begin with. Again, if you want to add in weights, then you can grab a couple of weights or a couple of water bottles, tins of beans, whatever you have that may help. And then a few things we're going to do. One is we're going to slow it right down, especially as we're tapping down. And as we're lifting up, we're going to do it in super slow motion. 2 is see if when you tap down to the floor, if they tap down at exactly the same time, or you may feel one taps down and the other one you think, God, where's that other arm gone? So try and get them tapping down directly at the same time. Try and keep your shoulder blades and your ribs down, so you may feel they're starting to lift up. You want to keep them pressed down. This is good for your posture, opening up those shoulders. Nice and smooth and slow. with your head. Make sure it's looking straight up to the ceiling. You're not arching that chin up. If you feel that that's your natural posture to get your head down, you may just need a small little 1-inch pillow or something underneath your head just to make it a bit flatter. But in general, I wouldn't encourage putting a pillow or anything underneath your neck, because we don't want to encourage building muscles in the forward head posture. Once we've done a few of those, we bring these arms down by our side and we're going to do our bridge. I love the bridge, it's so good for your body. So I'll show you what it is. My feet are going to be underneath my knees, so they're not kind of down here, but not too tight here. If you've recently had a knee operation or you know you've got very tight knees, they can be out a little bit further, that's fine if you can't quite get to that 90 degrees. I'm going to have my arms down on my side, palms or thumbs facing up again, shoulders relaxed down. I'm going to do a few pelvic tilts to begin with, just so I can get that lumbar spine moving. I'm going to tuck my tailbone under, so I'm pushing my lower back into the floor. I'm going to curl up, lifting my hips up. As I come up, I'm aiming to get a straight line between my knees and my hips to my shoulders, a diagonal line that is, excluding any belly or boobs, so don't take them into account. You're going to curl back down. A few things to focus on. As you're curling up, think about lifting each little vertebrae up off the floor, and you're getting to kind of where you're on your shoulder blades. You don't want to be right up here on your neck, just on your shoulder blades. And as you curl down, you lower each vertebrae down, really trying to get your lower back in before your pelvis. And I emphasise pelvis, not bum, because if you have a slightly larger bum, the fat and the muscle in your bum may touch down before the pelvis, but actually as long as the lower back is in before the pelvis, you're doing good. When you curl up, make sure you keep this tailbone tucked and these ribs aren't flaring. You want to keep nice and flat. And we're just going to continue with that, nice and smooth, really gaining that control to curl up and curl down. Make sure the weight is nice and even on the feet and that the knees aren't collapsing in. If you'd like to make it harder, you can take the feet wide on the mat. Make sure those knees are staying over those ankles and not falling in. You're going to do the same again. You should feel your glutes engage more as you're curling up and your hip flexors stretch more as you're curling down. Upper body and chest should be relaxed. If you would like the breathing for this one, we are going to inhale as we're on the floor. Exhale as we curl up. Inhale as we're at the top. Exhale as we curl down. So you're exhaling while you're moving and you're inhaling while you're still. But I always say, if you're just getting too confused with the breathing, then just keep the breath flowing. You don't want to be over-focused on how your breath is flowing and not working or focusing on your body. So focus on the body first. Couple more. Either with your legs wide or with the feet underneath the knees. And curl down. We're going to walk these feet back hip width apart. You're going to hug one knee into your chest and you're going to stretch the other leg away. Try and get the calf all the way to the floor. Take a nice deep breath in. As you exhale, pull these shoulders down because they may have crept up. Pull the shoulders down and pull this knee in tight. And you're just going to point and flex both the feet. This is really good for your fascial shear, which is the gliding of the fascia. The fascia is all the kind of connective tissue underneath the skin. Just every now and again, check in, see if that knee has a bit more movement to hug in a bit tighter. And we'll do the same on the opposite side. pointing and flexing. Deep breath in, shoulders down, knee in tight. And then we're going to hold both in just to level out. The tighter your knees are hugged in when you're rocking side to side, the more you're rolling on your thoracic spine, that central spine. The further the knees are pushed away, rocking side to side, the more you're rolling on your SI joints, the back of your pelvis. So you could be wherever you want to be, or do a little bit of each. See how you get on. Okay, we're going to come onto our sides now. So you've got your blocks or your pillows or whatever you have to hand to rest your head on. We just want them to be so our head is shoulder width off the floor. I've got a ball, but you can use your pillow or a couple books or whatever you have. That's roughly hip height, just to stop our hip collapsing down in. So lying on our side, you can see these blocks are good. They're keeping my neck in a nice straight line. I'm not up like this or on the floor. Sometimes people's elbows are enough, but you probably need something just a little bit higher to be on. Then I'm going to have my ball. Ball blocks, whatever you've got. What I want is to have something to balance my knee on. Without it, you can see it's trying to pull my pelvis forward, and I want to work while being in line. So my knee is going to be 90 degrees or less, preferably a little bit less, away from the hip, so you don't want it right up here, you want it down a bit. This foot can either be on the floor or just hanging here, wherever feels good for you. We're going to straighten our bottom leg so that the foot is in line with your head. Your head is straight, you don't want to be tucked under here, you want to be straight, body is nice and long. And we're going to lift and lower this bottom leg. Few things to think about, as per always. One is that this top leg isn't taking over. You shouldn't feel like this top leg is having to push into the ball to help lift you up. This leg should be nice and relaxed. A few things you can do is one, you can take it down a bit lower, just so that it's not trying to take over so much. Two is really allow the weight to fall down into your hip. If it's uncomfortable, then put an extra cushion or something underneath just to give you a bit of extra padding. And then lift and lower. Upper body should be nice and relaxed, head should be in the block. If you're feeling your head wanting to lift up, you need to tell that upper body to relax down as that leg's lifting and lowering. You may find you can only just lift it off the floor, or you may be able to get it right up. Everybody's different. We're aiming to work the muscles on the inner thigh, so the upper leg on the bottom leg. If you're feeling it a lot in your lower back around here, you may need to scoop your tailbone under. So tuck your tailbone under, engage these bum muscles to stop the back from taking over. Keeping that breath flowing, we're just going to continue with this lift and lower. If you'd like to make it harder, I'll always give you the option. You can lift and hold for 10 seconds each time, before coming back down. Make sure this pelvis is still stacked, it hasn't rolled back or forward. And the foot is in line with your head. Keep going there. If you tend to have your foot pointed, you can ask maybe to flex it a couple of times, just to change up those muscles, give that body a little bit of a challenge. As humans, we get very lazy and we get into our routines and we kind of do things without even thinking. But sometimes it's nice to say, oh, I know you normally do this, but actually we're going to do it this way this time. Just to keep that good connection. Okay, we're going to lift and hold for 10 seconds for our last one. If you're like, I'm nowhere near, feeling a bit of burn, then you can pause this, do a few more, then carry on. And rest down. We're going to take this ball away, or your blocks, whatever you've got. We're going to bend both the legs to 90 degrees. So 90 degrees is knees straight out from the hips, and then our feet are coming straight down from our knees, so we look like a nice box. Again, everything else is nice and straight. From here, we're going to do similar to a clam, but not quite. We're going to open and close these legs, nice and parallel. So you're making sure as you're coming up, you're not rolling backwards. The pelvis is actually staying still. And I like to picture that my knees have got a pole through. So from the ceiling, I've got a straight line which is going through both the knees, and I'm just lifting up and down on that pole. I'm not pulling the knee back out of that pole. hole. So trying to keep those legs parallel, feet, ankles, knees parallel so they're not collapsing in or out. And you're going to keep going. You should start to feel a nice bit of burn around your glutes, glute medius, which wraps around onto your hips. We're really working our TFL and down our abductors. Very good for strengthening this lateral knee. So keep going with that. Same again, if you want to keep going longer than what I do, then feel free to pause it and carry on. Upper body should be nice and relaxed again. You should be pushing into it with it trying to take over. Shoulders should be stacked. If you're not sure where stacked is, you can bring one hand directly on top of the other. When they're directly on top, then you know they're stacked, then you can move this other arm to wherever feels comfortable for you to be. This is quite a quick burn, this one. This is one of the ones where you start, you're like, oh, that's not too bad. And then you're like, oh yeah, I can feel a little bit. And then you're like, yeah, now I can definitely feel it. So you want to get to a nice big bit of burn, lifting and lowering that heavy leg, really feeling it working. When you get there, you can rest down and give it a rub. We're going to kick this leg forward onto the floor in front of us. The bottom leg can come back a little bit. We're going to flex the foot gently. We're going to slide your top hand over on the hand and open up all the way back behind us. Trying to keep this foot on the floor and looking over the shoulder behind you. If it's uncomfortable with your blocks, you can put them out the way, or you can just leave your head rolling forwards and back. So rolling forwards and back, keeping the foot on the floor. We're twisting in that thoracic spine, trying to take this hand all the way down to the floor. This is lovely if you're sat at a desk all day long. Just closing and opening in your own time. If you want to hold open for a fair few breaths, then you can. And then close. We're going to bend the legs just to a comfortable position. We're going to get ready for our side press up. So your bottom arm comes across onto your ribs. Your top hand comes in front of this forearm. You're going to lean in slightly. If you'd prefer to have your hand on this elbow for extra support, you can, or it can just be on your ribs. So leaning in, we are not going to lead with our head, so I don't want to see your heads pulling up first. They should stay roughly at this angle. Take a nice breath in, we're going to push into this hand, try not to use this bottom elbow, and we're going to do our side press ups, up and down, nice and smooth. You see how I'm not using my bottom elbow, my neck is barely moving, and I'm using that control. If you're struggling, you may need to lean a bit further forward. It's really hard to do when you're leant back like this, so you need to be leaning slightly further forward. And coming up, maybe about 5, you want to aim for about 5. We'll come up into mermaids, the legs stay roughly where they are, you may need to split them apart, or if you're really tight, straighten this bottom leg. Then the aim is to get this arm up and over, hands go towards the toes. If you're quite tight, even just sitting up like this may be enough stretch for you in and around the pelvis. But if you're not, then you can come right up and over. And then we're going to swivel over and do the same again on the opposite side. So grab your blocks, or whatever you've got for your head, move it over, and your ball, whatever you've got for your knees. Coming over onto your side, head on your blocks, ball underneath your knee. Same again, 90 degrees or less, preferably a little bit less. Bottom leg straight, body nice and tall, shoulders stacked. You're going to lift and lower this bottom leg. Making sure this top leg isn't pushing into the board, it's not helping lift you up. Your lower back isn't taking over. If it is, scoop the tailbone under, tuck that bum under, get these glutes working instead of the back. We're aiming to feel it in this upper inner thigh. The inner thigh muscles are quite a tricky one to target, but one good thing about Pilates is we do manage to target them quite well. Same again, foot pointed or flexed, depending on what your body wants to do. Maybe ask it to do the opposite. If you find this really easy, then you can hold and hold up for 10 seconds each time. Just keep that breath going. Same again, if you feel like you can go on for longer, you can always pause it and continue on. I'm going to do a few more. I'm going to hold for 10 on our last one. 1 and rest down. Take this ball away, bend both the legs to 90 degrees, so knees straight out from those hips, feet straight down. Make sure we're not pulling forward or tucking you under though. You want the spine to be straight, just those knees out, feet down. Pelvis is going to stay still and stacked, and you're going to do your 90 degrees, your parallel lifts and lowers. Same again, picture a nice straight line between both the knees, and it's just going up and down that straight line, not rolling backwards. We don't want back, push up and back into child's pose again. Same again, if you're struggling with child's pose, you can be up in cat pose, on all fours, or down. Take a few deep breaths there. And then back up into your box position. So wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. However, this time we are going to bring the hands slightly further forward out of their box. So just about a hand's width further forward. Make sure as well, whenever you're on all fours, that your elbows aren't locked. You don't want your elbows facing forward and locking in if you're hypermobile. Ideally, the inside of your elbow should be facing the inside of your elbow and inner arm. So one hand's going slightly further forward. We're going to do our thread with the needle. So with our other hand, we're taking it up, we're pointing up to the ceiling, and then we're twisting as we thread through. We're bending this supporting arm, and we're twisting under, and then just keep going with that. When you're threading through, make sure these hips aren't collapsing down, or they're not pulling through with you. Your pelvis should be still. So up, and thread. We look up to the ceiling, we look over our shoulder. Up to the ceiling, over the shoulder. I'll just show you quickly on the other side so you can see what's happening on the other side. So I'm looking up to the ceiling as I'm opening, I'm inhaling, I'm threading, I'm bending the supporting arm, and then twist through. You want to keep going with that. So you want to do about 20 on one side, then 20 on the other side. You've probably done nearly 20 on one side now, so you're going to alternate and take it to the other side. Same again, if it's too much on your wrists, you can be on your knuckles or your fingertips. Trying to keep that pelvis still. Keep that breath flowing. Inhale, open. Exhale, thread. Or just keep the breath flowing if it's confusing you. And come down to all fours, back into our box. So you might need to bring these hands back a little bit. Keep those elbows soft. We're going to do our cat-cow now. Cat-cow is an amazing stretch for our spine, but you do need to know how to get it right. So the movement's been created from our pelvis. Our cat is this N shape. We are tucking our tailbone under as if you're trying to tuck your tail between your legs. You want to push up into the lower back, not between your shoulder blades. And you're going to let your head hang. So really think of pushing up into that lower back. And then we're going to alternate. We're going to stick our tailbone up. We're going to sink down between our shoulder blades, more so than our lower back. And then we look up. So we create a U shape out of our spine. N shape, U shape. Why, when we're pressing up in the N shape, we don't want to push up at the shoulder blades too much? Is because our thoracic spine, that upper bit of our shoulder blades, is naturally forward flexing anyway. So we don't want to encourage more forward rounding shoulders. And when we're down in our U shape, our lumbar spine is naturally extending anyway. We don't want to encourage that kind of dipped lower back. So we can flatten this lower back but focus more on squeezing between the shoulder blades and focus more on pressing up into the lower back. Just rock between the two in your own time. And flatten off. We're going to tuck our toes under. Feel that stretch in your toes. You may find this easy, or you may be like, oh God, I really can't tuck my toes under. We're just going to push back into those toes to give them a stretch. Make sure it's about even on both sides. And then we're going to pull forward over our wrists. Push back into our toes. Pull forward over our wrists. Just having a gentle rock between those two. Back should be fairly flat for this one now. It shouldn't be kind of dipping and arching as we go. Once you're happy with that, if you're happy to, we can come up into downward dog, which is bum up, trying to get these heels down, and back should be fairly flat, shouldn't be kind of too curved. And you do a few pedal pushes. Depending on how tight your hamstrings, mine are very tight, depends on how good at this pose you will be. And then either you can come back down and come up, or if you're happy to, you can walk your hands backwards to roll yourself back up. Just be prepared to be a little bit lightheaded because we have been head down for a little while, so just give yourself a second to get that breath flowing around again. And then we are going to roll down again, so make sure your feet should be roughly hip width apart, knees are soft, pelvis in its neutral. Head back, chin to chest, roll the body forward, keeping those knees soft as you take yourself down to your hanging position. And then we're rolling back up, tucking the tailbone, sucking the vertebrae, pulling the body tall. Open up in that chest. We're going to bring our head back just to make sure we're not in this forward head posture. And we're going to look side to side. Just releasing any tension we've built in our necks. Quite often when you do moves, especially if it's for the first time or first time in a little while, you will find your body likes to create tension in your neck. And we go ear to shoulder. Make sure your knees are soft. And center, chin tight to chest. Take a few deep breaths in and out there. Up to the ceiling, again a few deep breaths. Center, a few really nice deep breaths. I'm going to breathe into your belly, stretch it out. Exhale, draw that belly in. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, draw it in. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, draw it in. And relax off. We're all done. I hope you've enjoyed that class. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop me a message or give me a call. Should be alright to do this no matter what your ability is, but if at any point you're thinking, oh, I wasn't sure about that move, feel free to ask. Do it as many times as you want a week. I always say it's ideal to do Pilates 2 to 3 times a week if you can, just to keep that body moving in all different ways. I hope you have a lovely time, and I'll see you soon.